I think it just comes back to our main thing. I see guys in here all the time, and they're putting the time in, right? They're putting the minutes and the hours into the facility. But ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And is what I'm doing enough? Very rarely is it too much, but is what I'm doing enough? Ask yourself that question.
Podcasting from somewhere with protein shakes and no yearly membership fees. This is the HeroFit Podcast, the show that talks about the ins and outs of fitness, nutrition, and anything else that might get you feeling like a hero. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your hosts, Nick Stutzman and Dan Weber.
Hey, all you listeners out there, thanks for joining us. This is the HeroFit Podcast. I am Dan Weber, here with my co-host, Nick Stutzman. We love to talk fitness, nutrition, and health. In each episode, we find something in those worlds that we believe will be interesting and helpful to you on your fitness journey. We appreciate you taking the time to listen. Today's guest is Greg Kraft. He's the co-owner, manager, and head trainer of a gym in Western New York called Chautauqua Health Fitness. We'll be exploring workout programming, goal setting, and motivation, among other things. So let's get into it. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, guys. Nick, Dan, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for being on.
There's a lot of different directions we can take this in. Before we got started here, we were talking about what it's like to be an owner and a personal trainer and trying to keep people motivated and coming back and reaching their health goals, and how we should be in the golden age, given all the information that we have, but we still have an obesity problem, and that really we're trying to get people motivated. Keep people motivated and
keep them moving.
Yeah. So talk about the challenges that you've encountered, what your thought process is on that.
Well, our biggest thing, so our facility here, we're in the Dunkirk, Fredonia area. So we're a smaller demographic. And normally, if you were going to open up a facility or have any business, what people would ask you for is, what is your business plan? And a good term that people would like to use for a business plan is an elevator plan. So you should be able to describe your business plan in the ride that it would take you and someone else to move to a couple floors on an elevator, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that doesn't always apply to us here because we have such a small demographic. We're trying to appease everybody that we can, or the most amount of members that we can, to maximize our membership base.
Yeah.
So what we found over the last 12 years of being open are different ways to try to individualize our members' own motivation points, right? So what we're trying to talk about is how to bring them in the door and then how to keep them in the door after they're here. So what are the biggest challenges? Not just to get them in the door. That's challenge number one, right?
Yeah.
Create an environment that's friendly and inviting enough to get them off the street. Doesn't matter what gym they want to walk into. It could be, your CrossFit box, a yoga studio, a cycling studio, whatever it is, box gym, whatever it is. How do you get them off the street and you get them in? Or, I'm sure that people listening, if they have ever started something uncomfortable for them, that's a tough thing for them to do. Everybody can think of something that they've done before that's uncomfortable. If you don't feel invited into that atmosphere that you walk into right off the start, it's going to be even harder for you to stick with it, right? Mm-hmm. So right off the bat, what we would do is when we bring them in, give them a tour, whatever we do with our membership, is we give our members or our new members a free training session or a free training evaluation, depending on how you want to call it. We usually, whatever works well with them is what we'll call it for them. They want to call it evaluation or a tour or introductory session, whatever they like to call it. We like to give them one of those so they walk in the door after they get signed up. It gives them an overview of the gym. Sometimes we can also run our new members through personality tests. And these personality tests will also help give us a little bit more of an idea before we really know who we're working with on what motivates them.
This is really interesting to me. I hadn't heard of any other facility gym doing something like this. I also think it's extremely important because I've kind of done a lot of personality tests in my career as just part of self-growth and like self-evaluation and self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And it's powerful stuff, but you're bringing what I think is something sort of unique into the fitness world where you're using that.
Yeah, exactly.
In this space.
Exactly. And our biggest hurdle that we find, and this is why we don't use it maybe as much as we should or all the time, is our biggest hurdle is trying to get the member to take their personality assessment serious. It only takes a few minutes, right? For them to take it serious without them trying to think that we're just feeding them a line of bull, right?
Yeah.
So
what I've also noticed with personality tests and suggesting them to people is that they're like, well, I don't want to be like put in a box or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
It's more like you got to look at it like it's a framework that will help you, not we're trying to stereotype you or something.
Exactly. So yeah, you know, and some gyms, and this is kind of how it can be pitched to an ownership standpoint, right? If you're trying to if you're a trainer trying to increase your client base, or if you're just a facility trying to increase your membership base, is if you can.
So most of our listeners are going to be individuals that are trying to work on their own motivation and fitness goals. So.
Yeah, if you're trying, so if you're exactly what you said, if you're trying to find your next motivation, maybe you're stuck at a plateau, or maybe you're really just struggling to find your motivation. That alarm clock goes off. You know you should be there at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. That alarm clock goes off. You know you can just sleep for an extra hour and then before you go to work, or whatever, right? So what's going to be your motivation point to get you into your workout routine, whatever it is? Maybe it's not even a gym. You're just going for a run, right? What's gonna motivate you? What's gonna light that fire?
Consistency is key. You're not going to see those results. It's going to be plateauing more if you can't.
Perfect.
Stay consistent and
exactly. So if you run a personality test on yourself, or you have someone run it on you, it's really not too hard. Again, as long as someone can take it seriously, as long as we can get that person to take it seriously. Ours don't get very in depth. I know Dan and I in the past we've talked about the stuff that you've done in your career. It's gotten very, very in depth. Yeah, we just go for it's a 4-quadrant personality. Like it's not. I know there's sub quadrants, and you can get really crazy with these things. And anybody listening, you could talk for hours on personality tests and what can mean for you or for others. But really, we're just looking for, are you going to be someone that needs high energy, right? So if you bring somebody in the door, are they going to respond more to me, like clapping my hands or getting in their face, and not necessarily yelling at them, but yelling to them, right? Or are they going to be someone that is more numbers driven, right? Do they want a reason to be like, hey, you're doing this? We talked about functional training. They're doing this because, hey, you're going to be able to move better in 10 or 15, or you're going to be able to play with your kids better, right? Give them a reason for what they're doing. Are they a little bit more self-motivated, where if you just give them numbers, they just try to beat numbers, whether that's in lifts, or like, let's say they're doing watts tests. Maybe they're taking a cycling class, they're trying to beat their average watts, or they're doing powerlifting, they're trying to break a new 1-rep PR or 10-rep PR, whatever those is. We have people that are motivated by numbers, and then other people are just motivated by a group of by a community, right? So these are our 4 quadrants. Like the fourth one would be a community event. Like they just like being a part of something, and if that part of something allows them to also be healthier, then that when that alarm clock goes off, or when they know they have to be here, it's not just them wanting to do it for themselves, but they also don't want to let their friends down, like in their group classes, or that there are other people with.
But is that something that, like, collectively, do you find hard to single out and remember that person is that, or have each trainer memorize who each person is, or do you may push those people so they kind of group them together, or I mean, I guess what I'm saying is it's not easy to cater to a class or a workout or something like that if we have groups to necessarily one different person each time, right?
Yes, so it could be. It hasn't gotten hard for us yet. Again, we don't do it for everybody. And majority of the people that we would do it for would be our one-on-one clients. So my one-on-one client base, it's easy enough for me to remember the things I'm doing with these one-on-one clients, right? Our semi-private or a small group training, a lot of times we don't have the time to bring those guys into these personality groups. So you almost got to do it on the fly. There's a few questions that you can ask and things like that you can ask these guys that you'll be able to get a good idea of. They're probably a blue, maybe a yellow.
If you're a good personal trainer, you're kind of intuitively doing this already.
Exactly. And then a lot of these guys might be doing this already, or a lot of your listeners that are just general fitness goers anyway. They might just know anyway. It's like, hey, I really like having a goal. Like, I sign up for this CrossFit competition and I nail it. Or, I sign up for this marathon, and then I know that on, May I'm running a Buffalo Marathon and I better get my ass in gear. That kind of thing.
I think it's interesting how the business environment that you're in sort of necessitated this for you, as opposed to other gyms that might be in bigger cities that are like CrossFit gyms, I'll take as an example. They kind of will naturally attract those community-oriented people, I'm guessing. I'm just speculating on that. And then that tribe will kind of all form themselves on their own. And since there's so many people in the city and it's such a popular thing, like, it just kind of happens spontaneously. But you guys have to, by necessity, like you said, cater to everybody as much as you can.
No. And that's an interesting thing. I never really thought about it that way. Like, I wonder if you were to run personality tests on all people that go to CrossFit, like, would they all kind of be all like energizers?
Well, that was the other
like all oranges.
Well, my other question too is like, do you know what you do, or do you know what you have, like as far as like a majority of what you said blue? Or, I mean, I'm just making stuff up here, but blues, oranges, reds. Like, do you know collectively what the majority of those that are coming here?
We don't really keep track of those numbers, so I couldn't tell you. I know that as a community,
That'd be an interesting study, I think.
Yeah, it would be an interesting study. I think that as a general population, like if you were to just take people that were into fitness or not into fitness, the majority of the population are energizers and community based. So, like I said, you got your numbers based, your energy based, your organized based, and then you've got your community. And majority are energizers and community based people. So I would think maybe CrossFit would be more energizer, and your
something like that.
What you could do.
The point is, it's almost like I said, by necessity, you guys have developed the ability to track this on a more.
Well, I think you might be missing out on though is that if you have all that data, you're able to take that data and say, all right, well maybe we can put equipment here that'll satisfy more of the masses than maybe necessarily just a couple here and there, or maybe both. You maybe want to attract a certain type of clientele, and you have this information, and you're able to kind of then use that to benefit the business, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a great reason to track those numbers. Yeah.
It'd be interesting. Like I said, I haven't either. I've never heard of being, especially with the one-on-ones. Obviously, I can see that definitely being something that's beneficial. But other gyms doing a personality type test to kind of see, and I'm also curious that if that is being done elsewhere, how successful that's been.
Yeah, I'd also be interested. I think our listeners would be interested in how they can use that to apply to themselves. So maybe we'll be able to put something on the website that lets them take their test.
Yeah.
I don't know if you work with us on that or not.
Yeah, do something like that. Allow people to take the test, and then just
Stay
see
tuned.
maybe if they're having if they're having an issue finding their motivation points. Why could that be?
Sometimes it can be more psychological than physical or something like that.
And it's a lot of times it's hugely more psychological than physical. Whether you give them someone a personality test or not, just have them come up with what are they shooting for this month. They're especially you're putting in the time being here. Don't just put in the time and go through the motions. That's our biggest thing that we like to talk about.
It's been a common theme so far where we're discovering that in fact the psychological is really important when it comes to this topic.
Yeah.
With our past guests, and it's probably not something that gets enough attention.
No, because you don't think about it. That's why, right? That's even your general members. So if you have someone, so industry standards. If you're just talking about like a big box gym, if you're not focusing on trainers, you're just trying to keep people coming, or like let's say for yourself, you're just trying to how do I make sure I don't become a statistic? I just joined a gym for the new year. I want to make sure I can make it past January. How do I continue to go for it, right? So what we say when someone walks through the door and they ask me the question, well, how many times a week should I work out? Listen, if you come here once, I love you, right? One time a week. But we know that in reality, I need them here twice a week for them to have a better chance or the best chance at continuing on with their journey, right? So it's, again, a little bit more psychological. You want to prepare yourself for reality. If I have someone that walks in the door and tells me on sign up that they're going to be here 6 or 7 times a week, and they've never been a member of a gym before, it's been years or months since they've been a member of a gym.
Then they're living a fallacy.
They're probably living a fallacy, or maybe they went online, or maybe they have some friends that told them, hey, man, you got to go hard, and you need to be here this many times a week, and that's how you're going to get to your goals, whatever weight loss or muscle building, or whatever their goals are, right? And it's either going to burn them out, so when they miss a day or 2 days, they're going to fall off of it for the week, and then that can snowball, right? Negative activities snowball to more negative activities, and positive activities snowball into more positive activities. So we want to build the positivity. So I don't want to come in and crush their dreams. I'm not saying somebody can't come in off the street, never been a member before, and can't come 6 times a week on a regular basis. But the likelihood of that happening, just from a number standpoint, is small. So I tell them, listen, 6 times a week, awesome. But I'm going to set up your program in your introductory session to go and cater to 3 times a week. If you're here more, then we'll repeat some stuff. Right? Because again, if we're talking about somebody who's just getting started on a fitness plan, for the first year of their training.
They probably need to repeat some stuff.
They can probably repeat some stuff, and anything is almost going to work with them for the first year of their training. Yeah, exactly. Newbie games, right? Whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to title it as. But for the first year of their training, no matter what they do, they're going to see progress. Whether it's the progress, we can get real specific. If their progress is to lose 20 pounds, they might not see that progress, but they'll see a strength progress, or maybe an aerobic progress, depending on what they've been doing while they're here. But again, if I can kind of bring them to reality, structure a plan around them that's easy for them to take, especially if I'm talking to a mom who's got 3 kids, maybe she's single, right? Like, she's going to be able to, yeah, we got childcare, but it doesn't mean they're going to corral the kids in the car 5-6 times a week, get them in here that many times. So again, starting from a psychological standpoint, what works best for you? If you have a week when you're in here and you plan for 3 times and you got here 5 or 6, awesome, right? Like, pat yourself on the back, feel good about it, right? But if you only got here 3 times or even 2 times, we're still happy it's better than you getting here no time.
Makes sense.
And you individualize it based on that personality in terms of how you program and how you even interact with them and get them to come back more and more. So then, switching gears a little bit, we just talked about the person that just signed up for the gym for the first time. What about that person that's been coming to the gym for a few years? They're doing the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Have really switched up their program. They don't even know necessarily. They might not even know what their goal is. Like, you encounter that kind of person, and then what advice do you give them?
We've got people that have been members here for 12 years and been doing the same thing as they walked in. And again, some people love it. Some people are happy with it. Some people, it can start to wear on them, right? And again, our goal is we want to maintain and increase membership base. So I would tell somebody there, we'd sit them down, we'd talk about it. Like, let's come up with a goal. So let's get a mental goal first, whatever that goal is. Sometimes, maybe they've been plateaued at a bench press, right? Maybe they're not even that serious whether they're even at a bench press. Maybe free weights has intimidated them. So they've, for the last 2 or 3 years or how long they've been here, they've stayed on regular selectorized machines for that long and just on cardio. So it's about giving them something new if they want something new. Maybe they don't want anything new, and that's why they've been satisfied doing what they're doing, but they're finding that, I don't know, maybe they had a sickness, or maybe they had an injury or something that happened, whether it was inside or outside the gym, that stopped them from doing their routine, and now they have to get back on the routine, or whatever it is. Right? So there's so many different scenarios that someone would come up and ask us this question, is we have to make sure that they're not just really going through the motions. And that's what happens. That's what I see most with our general population, with people that are been members for an extended period of time and just aren't seeing progress, is they get stuck going through the motions because they don't have goal. So again, from a psychological standpoint,
Makes sense to me.
yeah,
I've gotten into that point before where I'm just kind of going to the gym doing the same things because I don't really necessarily have a goal at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So how am I supposed to plan my workout if I don't know what I'm even working towards?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
starting point is to find a goal and set it. That's going to be largely
Crazy individualized, right? Crazy individualized. But again, you got to ask yourself, even if there's nothing that you want, like let's say we have a 35-year-old, he's in generally good shape, relatively speaking, for U.S., and maybe he's got a goal of losing 5 pounds. But how are we going to go about getting him to lose 5 pounds? It's largely probably going to be diet. But what should he do in the facility to try to help him along with that weight loss? Or again, whatever it is, maybe we put him into a spin class. I know you guys have talked about spin classes in the past, and we get him hooked on numbers. Maybe he's a guy that likes to beat numbers, and we start to talk to him about his FTP numbers and his total watts in class, and we try to get him to beat those watts. Maybe he's a guy, he loves powerlifting. Just say maybe he loves deadlifts, or he loves the power clean, or he loves bench press, whatever it is. So we take a look at where he's been at. Have those numbers been changing? They've been increasing. Hopefully they haven't been decreasing. If they have, why? And we try to come up with a plan through whatever we have to change in his program. Maybe, a lot of volume, low intensity, or vice versa. Or maybe it's just been kind of a hodgepodge. He does what he just feels like doing when he walks in the gym. Come up with a plan, maybe usually 8 weeks. I like 8-week plans as a little mesocycle, 8-week mesocycles.
Mm-hmm.
And have him build at 8 weeks for him to increase whatever he's been doing by, depends on the lift, 5%, 10%. And if he's able to hit those, then he sees a little bit of a movement forward. And also, like Dan, what you said, when he walks through this door, he has a plan. He's not just walking through the door because he's been doing it for years or for months, and it's just part of his routine. Yeah, exactly.
And that you get a little bit of a dopamine kick and positive momentum when you reach a goal and you have something else to now strive for.
Exactly.
So how do you get people who come to the gym, maybe just, on the regular, but don't really necessarily have those goals? How do you approach them and say, well, and enlist them into kind of getting one-on-one training?
So from a training standpoint, I mean, our facility standpoint, we're not a $10 a month club. So our goal isn't to get everybody to training. We'd love to get people to training if we really wanted to. But again, it's not an end all be all. It's a lot of $10 a month clubs. Like they've got people on the floor all the time just working to get people into training. And if it works, awesome. But again, what we would try to do more is to kind of sit down and talk with them. There's been times where I can't talk to members because they're set in their ways, right? So we're just going to move those members off of the table for this conversation. Like I said, I got 12-year-old member, not 12-year-old, but 12-year veterans of the club that have been doing the same selectorized machine
circuit.
Really
our audience anyway.
Now your audience anyway. So if we were to move past that and move to somebody that maybe wants help, but they have a hard time reaching out for it. Let's say they asked, so they come up and they ask us this question, right? They said, hey, I'm really stuck on here. And they don't come out and say it because it can be embarrassing to say sometimes on your own. I don't really losing my motivation. I don't really know what I'm doing while I'm here, right? So you almost got to read between the lines when someone's talking to you. If they're coming and asking you for help, there is an issue, whether serious or whether not serious, there's some kind of issue. And then we kind of just ask the questions. Well, how long have you been doing what you've been doing? What have you been doing? Do you log it? Like, do you write it down? This could be diet or gym. Just logging what you do and seeing it on paper can make a huge difference in what our members can see. I mean, let's say for diet, for example, right? So if we have weight losses, I like to give it 70% diet, right? 70% diet and weight loss. That's what I would go with that. Yeah. I like to throw that number out there, and 70% diet. And even if I overshoot a little bit, and from a gym owner standpoint, right, like I might be shooting myself in the foot, but I want people to understand that even if you're here 5 days a week, you're probably not putting in more than an hour and a half a week here, right? So at most, I got you for 7.5 hours. How many hours are there in a week? Like, that's not a very big percentage, right? So they've got to be disciplined outside these walls. So if I can just get them, not even to change their diet, just to write it down. And let's say maybe they have kids, or maybe their coworkers always got like a bowl of M&M's sitting on their desk, and they walk by and they say, hey, what's up, John? And they like grab like right? I want you to write that 12 M&M's you just put in your mouth, put it down on a notebook, right? Or log it in your MyFitnessPal app, or whatever you're doing. Make sure that you record that. So at the end of the day, if you add up your calories, or your fitness calculator adds up your calories for you, and you find out that you're at 2,500 calories and your goal was 21, well, maybe a good portion of that was those 12 M&Ms that you put in your mouth earlier in the day, right?
Yeah, and you'll notice your sugar intake is probably higher than you thought.
Yeah, and I'm not even
protein might be lower than you thought.
Exactly,
and fat's probably higher than you thought.
And if they're not logging stuff, they probably don't even know their macros, right? So they're probably not even looking at their macros at this point. If we can get into that down the road, but I just want them to look at calories, right? Let's just look at calories off the start. Let's keep it simple, the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? Let's get them to just look at the calories off the start, and then after that, we can start breaking it down. We'd be like, man, well, I really thought that this granola bar, Nutri-Grain granola bar, was good, but I just realized like it's loaded with processed sugar. It's probably not that great for me. I can get that 130 calories or whatever that is, a lot better from somewhere else.
Yep. First time I discovered that was in college. That when you actually write down what you eat, you also become more aware of your choices, especially if you have to show that log to somebody.
Especially if you have to show it.
Well, and you can friend people on like a MyFitnessPal or stuff like that too, to kind of even have people keep you in check, or be mindful. Oh, I see what they're eating. They can now see what I'm eating, and that'll also have that in your head too.
Right. So that now going back to the personality test,
social pressure on yourself.
So there's a little peer pressure now. If you're a blue, right, and you like to band together with other people, now you're like, oh man, I can't let Stacy see what I just ate those M&Ms or whatever, right? So whatever. Again, if that motivates you,
but the strategy for blues is to find someone to be accountable to.
But is that a good or bad thing? That can be, because then I don't know, because then there is that pressure. But is the pressure good or bad?
Well, again, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Anything can be skewed to be bad, right? Like, wow, well, the pressure was too big. I couldn't handle it. Stacy beat me in calories every day, and I can't stand that kind of negativity in my life. Okay. All right. I get it. I get it. But at the same time, like, at least you were doing something, right? At least, I mean, hopefully you've learned something about yourself or about your diet after knowing that Stacy's better than you did beforehand. And then hopefully we're a better place. Hopefully.
Or you just pick a neutral person that you're not competing.
Yeah.
You give them $100.
Now we're
and you
getting
tell them to reward you every time you try to use some
it.
positive.
Give me that $100 back.
I think there's some crowdfunding things like that out there. I think that people are like, you can sign up online. And
that'd be a good strategy.
I think, in all honesty, I think there are some programs where, like, if you can throw money at it, like you give money to a company, and I don't know what the names of these companies are. You can give money to a company, and then they'll if you set a goal, and if you hit those goals, they'll like pay you your money back. That's it, yeah. And it's cool things. Like, it wouldn't really work in a general population gym setting, because we're gonna have people like waiting their sneakers as they weigh in and trying to cheat the system and get their money back. But a lot of weight loss programs are based off of that, and it might not be cash you're getting. It might not even be weight that you're losing. It might be like jean sizes that you're dropping, which is another thing. The scale sometimes can be tough to look at.
I agree. I don't care about the number on the scale personally.
No. Yeah, right. So we do body calipers, like skin caliper testing, and we can get really crazy 7-site tests, or we can do like something very simple with like an electromagnetic impedance on body fat stats and things like that. But I like to use those numbers just as much as, not just as much as, but along with the scale to look at people, and to evaluate their progress. If we were to do a weight loss challenge, what we would do is we wouldn't do it on weight, we would do it on pant size. So it brings everybody into the same boat. And what we do is we maybe run like 2 months long or 3 months long to lose 2 jean sizes challenge. And I'd want them to take all the scales out of their house. Right? And basically, the way I would run it, I'd bring them in, have them try to buy a pair of jeans that would be 2 sizes too small. If they're 8, have them, buy a 4, whatever it is. Or for guys, right, if you're a 32, buy a 30 or a 29. Have them try them on. We're going to take a picture of them trying on those jeans, right? We're going to take those jeans from them. We're going to hold on to that picture, and then we're going to check in, maybe once in a month, once after 10 weeks, that kind of thing. 8 weeks, whatever, leading up to whenever the culmination of the reveal is. The reveal, right? And we're going to have them lose those jean sizes. And some companies I've seen, they've like got partnerships with certain stores. And if you get your 2 jean sizes in the course of your challenge, you'll get like a $50 gift card or $100 gift card to JCPenney's or whatever it is. And that allows that's that extra monetary motivation factor for it. But they might see that, like, I've had a client in the past that's gained weight and lost pant size, right? So how do you convince somebody who's just looking at the scale that what they're doing is beneficial? You give them something else to look at. Body calculations.
The old switcheroo.
The old switcheroo, right? Body calculations or jean sizes. Again, it's all
the
about
distraction.
What motivates
That's
somebody.
the magic of it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we're talking about hopefully something that one of these challenges or one of these ideas strikes a chord with one of your listeners, and you say, I never tried that before. I got really discouraged with the scale. Maybe I should try. I
think what we'll have to do is put together some website content around this topic, fleshing out more of the specifics of what you can do.
Especially when you're a gym like...
Assess yourself, strategies you can take to increase your motivation or discipline, whatever.
Yeah.
How you can even find your goal in the first place. I think this has been a good start.
Well, especially when you have a gym like your size or in this location, in this area and all that stuff, where you're trying to be a little bit more unique, so the average person doesn't stay in Buffalo if they're driving, that's their commute, or if they're not, whatever one of the cities is surrounding that has a big box gym or something like that. What makes you unique, so that way you're because obviously you're going to take as many people as you can. You want to fill this place up. Yeah. So what makes you unique, and what kind of different things can you do, programs or contests, anything along those lines to keep the engagement?
Yeah.
And then within, let's take a class like the spin class itself. Mm-hmm. You guys do spinning here.
Yep.
Finding ways to motivate people in different ways. We talked about our experience at Biker Bar, which is a spin studio in Buffalo. Nick was like looking at his numbers. I wasn't looking at my numbers at all, but I was like getting energy from like the pump that I felt in my legs and the instructor. And so there's different ways to motivate someone even within under the same roof.
Exactly. So we can do that same thing, not just in a class, right? So the nice thing about our spin bikes, or the spin bikes that you used at Biker Bar, are they are stages spin bikes. And I don't know what they do up there, but here we use the Stages programming, which is a flight program, and our regular or even one-time spin attendees can create an account. When they create an account, it's right on their phone. They can even use their phone as the console if they didn't want to use the bike console. And this account will then track their numbers that they get for each class. So say class is 45 to 55 minutes long. If you're a numbers guy and you're motivated by numbers, which would be like a green type of personality in our 4-quadrant system that we would use, then you're motivated yourself, whether you got people around you or not. You're motivated to beat those numbers. My average watts were 120 last class. Like, I'd really love to get 130 for my average watts this week, whatever it is, right? And that allows them to be motivated that way. Or you've got the group way, or you're an energizer, right? Or orange for your energizer would be, yeah, right. So yeah, let's just guess, right? So someone who might be an orange who's an energizer, they feed off that the energy and the energy of the spin instructor and the music that's blaring in there and the lights or whatever it is. So we do the same thing outside of our classes with our custom training app. And it's not as high energy, but it's a way that about 2 years ago I brought this custom training app into the facility. And we really only use it on our one-on-one clients. We have it available to our general population members at an extra cost, but it costs us money. So again, it's kind of included in their one-on-one training fee, or if they're like in like small groups, like 2 or 3-on-1 groups. And they create a profile in this app. This app will track almost everything that you could think of. You could do progress photos, weight. We do 3, 5, 7 site body caliper testing, electromagnetic impedance testing. You can link your Fitbit up to it, and it'll track calories burned. You can link your MyFitnessPal up to it, and it'll bring in your macros and your total calories from MyFitnessPal. But what I use it most for, and originally what I got it for, was to make my workout programming easier on myself. Once I get 20, 30 clients, I'm spending 4 or 5 hours a night trying to create these workouts for these guys on a paper notebook and trying to figure out, all right, so what would be 80% of the 1 rep max? And then trying to find the 1 rep max the last time he did it and come back right. So this was a really tedious process for me. So what I found was if I can bring this in and log all of their information, or have them log their information when they're on their own, the app will then calculate everything for me. So whether it's someone working with a trainer or someone just trying to find motivation themselves, they can log this information. So let's use bench press, an example, right? The barbell bench press. Say their estimated 1 rep max is 225. Maybe they never did a 1 rep max, but again, instead of going online and finding a chart and then figuring out how many times you can do 10 reps at this weight, it will automatically take all the information that you've entered in there, create an estimated 1 rep max, give you your actual weight, your heaviest weight you've ever done, and then you can base your rep numbers off of that. Let's say we did 5 sets at 80% of your 1 rep max. Let's see what we can get out of it. 8 reps or whatever it is. And then what it works off of too is it works off of volume and overall weight PRs. So again, if you're a numbers person driven by numbers, it allows you to try to beat those PRs, whether on a volume standpoint throughout the course of that whole set, or whether it's a single weight. Maybe you've never done over 200 pounds in the bench press. You want to do 205. Boom, it's right there. You can look at the date you've done that on. It also helps to have us be a little bit closer with our clients when we're not with them. Let's say that we gave them a new exercise, and that exercise that we gave them was, we've got human sport equipment in here, right? So maybe they did like a human sport standing unilateral row, kind of a wordy name for an exercise, right? And you're like, what in the world is that, right? Mm-hmm. Here, we upload a video. Myself and one of my other owners, we upload a video right to the app. They click play on that video. It shows them what machine they're on, where they're at in the gym, explains different cues, whether it's, where you should have your elbow positioned or your feet, or what to engage or where to squeeze, that kind of thing. And then now that just crossed a hurdle of, well, I don't know what the heck that exercise is, so I'm not even going to try it. Well, now, let's say they can ask somebody. Maybe they can ask one of my front desk employees. Or maybe they don't know them that well. They're not a very outgoing person to begin with. Now they don't have to be outgoing. They can just look at their phone.
So it helps to have your phone in the gym.
Well, yeah, right. Turn off your internet. Turn off your internet and just do it out of your app. Right? Don't go. I don't want to see selfies. Yeah. So again, yeah, it's a really nice way. And if numbers drive you, I have some clients that I talked about this before. I repeat workouts 2 times in a row, right? So if this week we did let's see, my template, my number one template, right? We're going to do number one template again next week, and he's going to just try to beat those numbers from the week before. And then we're going to move on. We're going to switch some things up, and whatever cycle we're in, we're going to switch up your lifts for the next day or for next week. Week number 3 in the cycle, and then week number 4 he's going to do the same workout he did week number 3. We're going to try to beat those numbers because we have this guy that I'm talking about is specifically driven off beating numbers. If he takes a spin class, he's only looking at those watt numbers the whole time, almost over-concentrated on it because he's trying to beat those numbers off of things he's gotten before. And then for someone who's not that driven by numbers, it gives them an idea, okay, well, where am I? They didn't waste a set or 2 sets trying to figure out what weight they're on because it's been a month and a half since they've done that exercise, right? Or like, let's say we're not even talking about weights, right, of kettlebells or dumbbells or machines. Maybe they were just talking about planks. They want to beat their biggest elbow plank time, right? They can pull it up right there, see the longest they've ever gone is 1:13 seconds, and shooting for 1:20, whatever it is. So it's a really nice way for us to have that extra motivation. They can video chat with us through it. They can send us messages through it. It's really cool. And so again, circling back to if you're a facility or you don't have access to an app like this, just writing these things down. Maybe you created an Excel spreadsheet for yourself, or you carry a notebook with you. If you can write things down in any form, it will help you to make yourself more accountable.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense.
You just journal your goals every morning.
Exactly.
Help you stick to things.
Big goals broken down into little goals.
Well, right. You're creating the original goal, and then that's the program that you're doing, and then once you reach hopefully that goal, that's your first cycle or whatever, and then we create another overarching goal
along the lines of what you were just talking about. I mean, Nick and I sort of have long-term plans to try and help those people that aren't offered this at their gym.
Yeah.
A way to maybe utilize our website or something to do this stuff, but that's kind of a TBD right now. Yeah. But everything you're saying makes a lot of sense, and we're gonna tap into your experience.
Yeah, and I mean, and we can hit a more intermediate to advanced stuff. There's a lot of things we're talking about right now would
beginner stuff.
Yeah, beginners to intermediates, right? But if let's say you have a listener right now, it's like, all right, well, I'm kind of there, right? I'm writing everything down, and I'm still stuck. What do? I'm writing stuff down. I just want to beat that 225 max bench, and I just can't beat it, right? Well, that's when we talk about bigger goals to smaller goals. So we can use, right, the macro cycles or a mesocycle within your macro cycle to move yourself into an 8-week plan. I like 8-week plans. It's up for, you can go at 6 weeks or a month for a mesocycle, right? I'm going to plan at 8 weeks. It's just the way I set up all my stuff inside of my training app is all 8 weeks. So find an 8-week plan of you want to have a 235-pound max bench, right? Within that 8-week plan, doesn't mean that we're just going to, hope and pray and hope that we get there. So we're going to break it down maybe into some microcycles from that, right?
This is periodization.
Yes.
Right? I think it's a thing that some people might not be aware of, and it's important. It's a concept to start to learn about if you're in that boat.
Exactly. And then what I found is a lot of people are aware of the concept, but just might not be aware that they're actually A, doing it, or B, might not be aware of how to do it correctly. And again, there's not they're saying there's incorrect or correct ways. I mean, anybody that you talk to are going to have different theories on how big their macrocycles or their mesocycles or their microcycles should be, right? But again, if we just keep it basic, 8 weeks, it's 2 months. It's not too long of a goal, right? You're not shooting too far out. Most people, especially if they've been a member of a gym or they've been on a plan for a certain amount of time, they should be able to stick with something for 8 weeks to shoot for a plan. So
you would think so.
You would think so, right? That's our goal, right? So again, right now we're talking to that intermediate to advanced type of whether you're lifter or exerciser or whatever they want to call themselves, label themselves, if anything. And you're having them shoot for that increased max bench or increased lift of whatever they're trying to do. So you break it down by looking at maybe you're more of a volume guy, you do more 10 to 12 rep range, right? So we try to increase that 10 to 12 rep range as well. So it's not just, hoping that I'm just going to keep lifting, I'm going to get 10 pounds heavier on my bench. But maybe we start to throw some really overload training principles in there. We're going to start doing some negatives with them. So, which means if they're kind of like a loner in the gym, and I don't say loner, that could be a bad word, but maybe they just don't really lift with anybody in the gym. They might have to make some friends because they're going to need a spotter, right? Yeah, right? You might need a spotter. If you're at a gym, you should go talk to the guy at the front desk. If you really don't like anybody you work with, if you're paying for a membership, the guy at the front desk should be able to spot you, right? Or girl, guy or girl. And, we've got some girls that can spot better than a lot of guys that are members, right? So
don't assume gender.
Yeah, dude, we don't. Yeah, or whatever. It's true. I cannot assume gender. Yeah. So go see the person at the front desk.
Wow.
So we're getting real touchy here. Go see the person at the front desk. Ask them for help for a spot. Right? They'll give you a spot as long as they're not busy cleaning or signing somebody up or doing something nuts, or just talk to somebody around you. And then return the favor. Say, hey, I'll spot you if you need whatever.
I'm always willing to spot people. You see me?
There you go. If you see Dan in the gym, I mean, he's got this face on him sometimes. He just doesn't want to talk to him, but
I might be
like
mugging Scotland, but
he's a teddy bear on the inside. He's a teddy bear on the inside.
He definitely.
Yeah. So again, you might have to talk to somebody or find somebody to spot you, but you're going to want to maybe overload that principle. Maybe you're someone that already does this. Maybe you already do negatives. So what's the issue here? Like, maybe are you doing too many of them? Because negatives aren't an end all be all. Too many.
Could be
of
some
them.
people that are doing too much.
Too much.
Trying so hard that
they're
actually hurting.
Yeah. Negatives can, there's a
Hard to
time and a place for them, but it is very hard to recover from, and it can be very stressful on your body as well. So make sure you're not overdoing those kind of things.
Some people are probably stressing their nervous systems a lot.
Could be, yeah.
Under recovering from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's true too. There's a lot of CNS talk out there now too. A lot of people shooting for that. But again, it all kind of depends. It's tough to just make general statements because there's so many individual plans out there. But the main point that we would want to drive home here is that you figure out what you're doing and you have to change it. And then you have to walk into that gym or your studio or wherever you're doing and have a purpose. Yeah. When you walk in, you have a purpose. And it's today, I'm going to make sure that my total volume, maybe it's just total volume, right? Maybe you really don't want to talk to anybody, haven't spot them. You're going to somehow lift 1,500 pounds on the bench, right? Right. So when you calculate, like if you're at 100, if you're at 100 pounds, right? So one rep would be 100, 2 reps would be 200, right? So that 1,500 is kind of low, right? But whatever, you come up with a number. And because you've been journaling things and you're dedicated and you see these numbers, whether it's on a spreadsheet or in a notebook or in an app or whatever, you know that your total volume is, again, I'm going to use 1,500, even though it's a low number, 1,500 pounds, and you want to go for 17, right? So that's a goal. That's a goal, right? And you can use this for any lifts that you want. You can use it even if you're not a lifter and you're a runner. I've got guys that are lifters that want to become runners and vice versa. And we can have them, all right, listen, you've never ran a mile and a half without stopping because you can't get over a mile. What's stopping you at a mile? Is it more mental just because you see a mile roll up on a treadmill and you just don't want to go anymore? Right? Or what is it, right?
Bigger impact than we think.
Yeah, exactly. So you break it down into smaller little cycles.
Or you just hide the numbers.
Yeah, we've got a lot of
study one time that said something along the lines of the number that you have in your head as like what you're aiming for is it's almost like a mental stopping point. Like you'll hit it and you also have a hard time going past it. It's interesting.
So aim high.
Yeah, well, if there's any pole vaulters listening to this, my background is pole vaults, what I did all in college and in high school, and if there's nothing, there's no more truer of a statement than having a number that you get stuck at in pole vault. It's just that number ends up being a height on the pole vault progression. Mm-hmm. So any pole vaulters know exactly what I'm talking about.
That's psychology. We're gonna have to turn this into a psychology podcast at some point. Get people past their hurdles.
That's right.
I'm trying to this conversation's gone a lot of different ways, and it's been very theoretical. Yes. I want to bring in some practical application a little bit here. Step 1, self-awareness. Step 2, establish a goal. Step 3, now you got to find a plan to work towards that goal, and you got to find your motivation as well.
Mm-hmm. I think walking in the door should be
the goal in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say walking in the door, and after you find your self-awareness, that is your motivation. I think to an extent.
And then, depending on what your motivation is, set up a strategy, which we'll provide some help on that on the site. Maybe you need someone to keep you accountable. Maybe you need numbers to chase. Maybe you need to find a tribe, whatever.
Tribe, I like that word. You got to find a tribe.
Dan's all about those.
I like the tribe.
Yeah, he likes that word.
Find your tribe.
Yeah.
So these are some starting points for you listeners out there that might be, if you're listening to this podcast, you most likely are not a complete beginner. You're probably not.
You're lost. You're
probably not a personal trainer yourself.
You're a sheep out in the world trying to find your tribe.
You're where I've been the last few years, where go in and do what you've been doing. But now I'm starting to realize I need to switch it up again because I've plateaued.
Yeah.
When I was an athlete, I had things I was chasing, goals to reach.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about being an athlete, and then now transitioning to something like this.
Let's learn who Greg Kraft is.
So this is interesting, right? I've actually had this conversation probably 3 or 4 times in the last month for whatever reason. I found that myself personally, I have a hard time finding the motivation to go above and beyond. Let's say my workout is 80%, right? 80% exertion. And we can get really into numbers and talk about muscle activation. And it's even hard for professional athletes to get activation that's over 90%. I had a client that actually decided that he was going to go out and buy an entire suit, like shorts and a top that tracked his muscle activation. And again, this is my numbers guy. His motivation.
I think I know what you're talking about. It doesn't track me.
Yeah, right. So this is a numbers guy. He spent a lot of money on this app and it linked up to his phone, and he was able to watch like in real time as he went through his lift what kind of muscle activation he was getting. It's hard for an athlete, even talking about NFL players or any professional athlete, to get over like a 90% muscle activation. So we take that back a step and we just talk about intensity, right? Or mental intensity, or just physical intensity. Are you going to push yourself far enough where like you end up on the ground at the end of your set? Like not because you passed out, but just because you're that tired, like you're that spent, right? Or maybe you went to exhaustion on, just keep references back to barbell bench press, right? Like maybe you really did need a spotter. If you didn't have a spotter, you would have dropped on your chest, right? That's something that you have to train yourself for, right? We talk about central nervous system. That's something that you have to push past. You have to be comfortable with. And it's hard for me to get to those stages where I'm at failure with all of my lifts, or shouldn't be all your lifts anyways, but with my big lifts, my opening lifts on each one of my days, because I don't have that athletic component to it anymore. I'm not competing anymore. I went from all through high school, middle school, high school, 4 years of college, where it wasn't just me that I was training for, it was my teammates, right? And it was my goals, my end of the season goals. So my entire program got switched based on, is this going to give me points at the conference championship meet? Will I be a conference championship or a conference champion if I can do this or if I can do that? I don't have that anymore. And those things would kind of scare me. And that was, for me, that was what motivated me. Is A, I didn't want to let my teammates down. I wanted to make sure I could bring home the points, at least that I was seeded for. If I'm not, if I'm seeded fourth, I'm better be bringing home fourth place points, or or I let my teammates down, and then doing better, right? So the conversation I've been having with a lot of our members is we find now, and I don't have any numbers to back this up, so this would be interesting to back this up. It's just kind of like just casual observations that I notice in a gym. Some of my most dedicated lifters and exercises, so let's use running, right? So there's marathons, half marathons. Some of my most dedicated lifters and runners were people that A, were not athletes in high school or college, and really B, if you were to talk to some of these guys about how they were in high school, they weren't even athletic, right? They would have never called themselves athletic, or a jock. They might have been overweight or very skinny, and for whatever reason, they found something that spoke to them: running, lifting, whatever it is, spin biking, whatever, and they just kill it now. And they go after it and they kill it, and they're some of our most dedicated members.
I think some of that too is because they didn't have an opportunity, or they weren't ever given that opportunity to become something like that, and they never were shown something like that, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm actually really good at this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not, and it's something that, like, being a good weightlifter is something that anybody can be good at. One of my most strongest clients is a guy that's in his late 40s. He's in his late 40s. We've been training, I think, for about 3 years now. He only does half-hour sessions 4 times a week. So that's another thing we never really talked about, is how long you should be here for. It's not about how long. It's not about a time limit.
But what you're doing.
It's about what you do while you're here, right?
Thinking about for quite a while.
Yeah, right. So
you don't need 2-hour workouts.
You don't need 2-hour workouts.
If anything, they might be detrimental.
Yeah, it all, again, that kind of depends on your program and what you're doing and what you're here.
For the majority of people with the majority of goals that are out there.
This is all talking about what motivates someone individually, right? But my 47-year-old client, who is one of my strongest, and actually the strongest in some lifts, client. And the thing is, his motivation is just having a routine. So he comes here from 5 to 5:30 in the morning, 3 days a week. He drives 20 minutes in. So he wakes up around 4 a.m. every day. He's a teacher, right? So we're just talking about some guy. He got into, and he's been a member off and on before he started training with me. But he has not missed, and he actually hates it. Like if weather gets in the way, like this week we had bad weather, right? So he tried to come in an extra day and make up for it, but 4 times a week. So I see him for 2 hours a week, and he's ridiculously strong, but it was consistency. And he comes up with specific goals. He still has a weight loss goal that he can try, but again, 2 hours out of a week is tough. He has lost weight, dropped down, and then he's a roller coaster a little bit. His family gets together and eats a lot of very good meals, which is his downfall. But again, we have goals, and he's not really a numbers guy because he's just kind of almost oblivious to these numbers that he's doing. So he's someone he's going to be dedicated. He's just driven to be here. And at the end of the workout, if I tell him he's got 3 PRs, he loves it, right? He loves it. But in the workout, he's not asking me like, oh, man, was this a PR? He's not that involved into it, which if you're someone that's working on your own, you're not going to have that luxury of not going to be as involved. You're going to have to know these things. But again, he was never an athlete. He would still right now not consider himself an athlete. He's just a general fitness guy that's killing it.
Yeah, bringing it back to that point, that was interesting about your comment. Just trying to like figure out why that would be. And I wonder if there's something that happens where you get conditioned as an athlete to either achieve for your teammates or achieve for your own individual competition purposes. And then when that's taken away, you have to replace it with something else. And that's maybe more challenging if you've already come from a certain perspective versus someone who's starting fresh in a sense.
We were listening to the podcast on the way here, and it was with athletes, and they were talking about how an athlete dies twice.
Yes.
Once when they're done with their sport, and now they're trying to figure out what they want to do, and when they actually pass away. But that first athlete's death. I mean, I always think when somebody says that, I always think Brett Favre. I'm like, that man would not let it go. He couldn't let it go. Yeah. But he was still playing at an elite level. But he was just like, everyone was like, man, Brett, you gotta hang it up. And he's like, I don't wanna. And you're not going to make me if I can still play. Yeah, and I respected it. I still do. I hate Brady.
It's interesting seeing some athletes after they retire, and you see them 5 years later, and their bodies have completely changed. Yeah, because
there was a couple of linemen.
Must be lacking some sort of motivation at that point.
Right. There was the one lineman who was like 350 pounds, maybe more, and he still looks like a beast, but you can tell he's like maybe 225 trim. Yeah. You know, like
from that standpoint, he probably did that so he wouldn't die.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're just not putting in that effort for training camp, mini camp, camps, and all that stuff to get ready for the season.
You got to imagine he put in so much work to get to a point where he was larger than his body naturally wanted to be.
Right, and now he just naturally trimmed back down because it was just I
was thinking more the opposite way, where you have like a receiver who starts putting on weight.
No.
Well, right.
Yeah, again, and that's what kind of reference back to even like everyone here, if you were a high school athlete and then all of a sudden you get away from either regular gym classes in high school or your regular practices. I have a lot of people that I know that were great athletes in high school, even in college, that after the fact, they have gained weight. A couple of people that are going the other way, like some of our linemen or some of our throwers on our track and field team that have started to drop weight since then. And whether it doesn't necessarily have to be losing the muscle, but they decided, hey, I'm going to become generally more healthy. I don't need to be this size to be good at a sport because I'm not doing that sport anymore. And they drop down. One of the things that I tell my athletes all the time, and I don't know how this doesn't. Maybe we've got some current athletes they're listening to this, whether high school or college or whatever. I tell my current athletes one time, and one thing you can never get back is your time, right? And this is what I would try to drive home when I was coaching. Is you cannot get back your time. So if you decide that you've got a 2-week plan where you're worried about your girlfriend or you're worried about some test coming up or something that wasn't that important in the general scheme of things, let you become distracted or not as focused on your sport or on your craft, that's time you'll never get back, right? And the feeling and that anxious feeling or that nervousness that you would get, or specifically this is what would drive me, is that sick to my stomach feeling I would get during the national anthem of football games or during that first time down the runway as a pole vaulter, right? That feeling was what would drive me, that nervous energy that I'd put towards it. The only time I've ever been as nervous as I was at the beginning of a sporting competition since I stopped competing was when my daughter was born and when I got married. That's it. I never, ever again
haven't experienced that feeling. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what drives me. So I know, Dan, you did this with me. Is that Spartan race?
I was going to say. So I was just thinking.
The Spartan race, yeah. So the Spartan race scared me. Spartan race scared me when I first started up for it. So if some of your listeners aren't
it's like
familiar,
a Tough Mudder.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Did
a
one of those
little
in Toronto.
it's a level up from a Tough Mudder because they'll actually track what place you come in. It's more a Tough Mudder is more about camaraderie, right? I'm saying why am I saying this
Yeah,
wrong?
that's exactly
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie, right? So a Tough Mudder is more about that team, right? Helping people get through some of those obstacles you can't get through on your own. You have to have someone help you through it. A Spartan race still has that general sense to it, but they drop it down and they make it competitive. Like your first heat of the day that goes off is a competitive heat.
Yeah.
You're going for time, right? You're going to win that heat.
Your time goes up on the big board with everyone else.
Yeah, so again, that is what drove me for that. And I did the Tough Mud of the year after, didn't drive me as much. And then I signed up for a Spartan race the year after that, didn't even show up because it didn't scare me anymore. It's hard. It didn't scare me. It didn't light that fire. So for me to train at a level,
I'm having
I
the
used
feeling
to
because I'm
train,
thinking
right?
about when I played alumni football now.
Yeah.
And I think about right before the game, and you get that hit, and I feel it right now. So
Yeah, right, you're getting
You're
pumped
talking
up,
about it. I'm
right?
thinking
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, I want to go hit something. Like,
That's it. Well, and for my athletes, that's the motivation point that I use, right? So if we're doing heavy deadlifts, or maybe like I had a football player that got named to the All-State team. One of my football players, he would drive a half an hour away to get here, and he killed it. He gained 20 pounds of muscle, moving up to his preseason. He just signed a scholarship, going to a school out in PA, and this guy killed it. And his motivation points, especially on those, he's a long day. He's coming up, from 20, 30 minutes away, and the sun's beating down on him, and we're outside, we're working on a hill. Like, how do you motivate him, right? So you get down, and then I get into his face, and we're down, and it's fourth quarter, right? And I'm driving him on the fourth quarter. I'm finding something that would relate to him. So, and I've been up on the treadmill yelling at myself fourth quarter before, right? And it's people probably think I'm nuts, but again, it's the only thing that I have to hold on to kind of bring me back. And we, whether you can drum up that kind of motivation and that intensity within yourself or not, I, again, on my casual observations, have seen that the people that lift the hardest, and I see them get into it the most over here, are people that, for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, are people that never had, never come
We're
from
in an
an
athletic background.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That
I
is,
also
I'd like
wonder
that'd be a
if-
good study too.
I also wonder if there's like an aspect of maybe they're more likely to fall in love with the process.
Yeah.
Because it's their first
just
time.
the result.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna
Interesting stuff.
wrap this up a little bit. So I'm gonna do some shotgun questions here, and then we'll take it home. So what has been like the most challenging and hardest part of your career so far? Just kind of like stuff that you've had to overcome, setbacks, stuff like that.
I tell you this. We talk about motivation points, and from someone who's done this day in and day out, sometimes I have a hard time finding my motivation points for clients that have a hard time finding their motivation points. So I would say that's probably my biggest challenge. I've always been an advocate of maybe one time a year for like a week, having our trainers rotate through clients, just to have a different set of eyes on somebody, right? And I've heard that this was brought up to me before, and we've never done it, like we've never strictly done it. A lot of times we'll have a trainer that'll take a vacation for a week, and I'll give my client to somebody, or vice versa, right? And just a different set of eyes on somebody, you'll see it. And also that different set of eyes watching that client or watching that person motivates that person a little bit more, right? So if we're tracking them in our app, we find, hey, you hit 5 PRs today. Like this, where did this come from? Oh, I don't know. Well, they just had someone else watching them. So a lot of times, right, without me trying to like give away my clients to other people to get them to do better, how do I get them as motivated as they would have been when we first started working out together? And I've been training them for 3-4+ years, right? And part of it is we would come up with a new goal every 8 weeks. What's our goal going to be this week? This mesocycle? Is it going to be to drop weight, or is it going to be whatever? But I would say that's my biggest goal, or that's my biggest difficulty is maintaining the motivation for me to maintain the motivation for clients. There is such thing in this industry, and again, I'm probably not speaking to very many people that as firing a client, right? Or even firing a member. Like
Sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah, as firing a client. And whether it's me or whether it's them or whether it's a combination of both of them, sometimes, doesn't happen often. It's less than one hand I've had to do this, but I've had to just tell people that, it really isn't working out. It isn't working out. If you want to
Let's
set up
see
with
other
a different
people.
trainer,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, let's see other people. I like it's
We've
not
had
you.
to do
It's
the
me.
same thing in
Yeah.
our marketing agency background.
Yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah.
If there was one thing that you could change, or changes one thing, what would it be?
As in personally?
Yeah, personally.
If you would have asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have said I wish I would have gone to school and got a nutrition certification. But now I realize I'm way too busy to actually do nutrition planning on top of everything else I'm doing. That's a tough question. It's a really tough question. You should have asked me this. Give me a screener on this one. I would probably say that there's things that I've waited on to do, whether to implement in my programming or this app I talked about we started 2 years ago. I really wish I could have started that earlier. I feel like it would have given me reduced a lot of stress a long time ago. And I'm sure 2-3 years down the road, I'll be telling myself I wish I would have done something now instead of waiting to do it down the road. So maybe waiting to do some things, right? And just be like, oh, maybe I didn't know of the idea yet. Or maybe I just am hesitant to do it in the first place. Yeah.
Sooner.
Yeah, acting on things sooner.
Proactive.
Proactive. I mean, I'm never. It's you'll hear this in all aspects of life and business. It's not a bad thing to fail as long as you can learn from your failures,
exactly.
Right? But as I mentioned before, in a completely unrelated topic, why fix something that's not broken? A lot of my stuff isn't broken, so why try to add something to it if it's not going to work? So sometimes I think about that. I should have done it earlier, right? Or even given up on things sooner.
Makes sense. What are some of the other things you're interested in other than running this gym?
Well, my wife is 31 weeks pregnant, so and it's for our second child. So I'm also interested in being a family man. I'm a big outdoors guy. Dan knows this. I love to spend a lot of time on the water in the summertime. In the wintertime, it's usually my time to just hunker down and try to increase the training and increasing the cash flow. But I do a trivia DJ. I DJ trivia nights. And it allows me to do some outside announcing things. I've DJ'd some weddings before, as much as I am not a fan of it all the way. But my pole vault background has allowed me to be in connection with one of our local Olympic gold medalists, who's someone I used to train with back when I was in high school, and her husband, who was my coach when I was also in high school. And she, amazingly, is still vaulting in her into her mid to late 30s, and still hitting world-leading heights and things like that. And I've got to announce a lot of those events. And I've been invited to MC and announce these big pole vault events for these huge either high school or professional names. And it's really something that it's just fun. It's just fun to do every once or twice a year, however often I get to do it.
You two can bond over that.
Yeah, we'll talk about
extroverts.
that. Yeah. Here's another fun one. Favorite cheat meal?
Ooh, I'm a pizza guy. I love pizza. I
too.
like it a lot.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think that's 2 votes for pizza.
Yeah,
2 times asking this question.
Yeah.
What is next for you?
Well, hopefully an expansion. We're sitting on a 14,000 square foot facility, and we're hoping to expand, add another 5,000 feet to it. I'm not a huge team training guy. I've had the opportunity to train some teams on a wide scale. I like the smaller individual one-on-one time. I like that more individualized attention that I can give to people. And that is going to be an interesting transition for me, because the individual clients I've trained, their coaches and their teammates have expressed a lot of interest in being able to train as large groups. And our expansion should allow very easily for us to train very large groups. And that will be something that will be a new venture for me. If, assuming that the expansion all goes through, we're still in the preliminary stages of it, but that'll be something that'll be very interesting for me to get into. Exciting. And maybe I'll find a new joy in it that I previously didn't have. Yeah.
Sounds like another podcast.
Yeah.
It sounds like something to talk about later
There's
on.
a lot of topics.
Yeah, we definitely.
Yeah.
Last question is any pro tips that you want to impart to the listeners?
I think it just comes back to our main thing. I see guys in here all the time, and they're putting the time in, right? They're putting the minutes and the hours into the facility. But ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And is what I'm doing enough? Very rarely is it too much, but is what I'm doing enough? Ask yourself that question after every set, after every workout, after every run or every cycling class or every
Every rep?
Every rep. Well, maybe not every single rep, right? Maybe after like a whole set, right?
What am I doing?
What am I doing? But you could say this to your college athlete, your high school athlete, your professional bodybuilder, your power lifter, and you can say it to my 80-something-year-old, senior citizen that's been coming here for 10 years. Is, if you're at a weight and you've done that weight for 12 reps forever, if you can hit 15 reps out of that, why aren't you moving up?
Or just moving the weight up, anything.
Yeah, right? Or why aren't we changing something, right? So you already have the time here. Make the most out of your time. Make the most out of your time, right? You can't ever get your time back. Give 110% of your focus at what you're doing at that time, no matter what it is, and just go for it. Kill it.
Totally. Well, thanks, Greg. I think definitely been one of a very informational podcast. I think we touched on a lot of different things.
We did touch on a lot of things. We'll have to narrow it down. In the future.
We can get more laser focused.
Yeah.
On the next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate your time and.
But one thing I want
to
take away from this whole conversation is, I think we've identified something, Nick and I, that we can take and create something that our listeners can access online to help them with this part of their fitness journey.
Yeah.
The starting point, essentially, which is finding your why, I guess.
Finding your why.
In one sentence.
Yeah. And again, you could have multiple starting points. And we talk about an athlete has 2 deaths, right? And your fitness goer could have multiple starting points depending on what they've done or what they want to do.
And we've talked to people that have been on that kind of journey where, I did powerlifting, I did CrossFit, I did bodybuilding competition. And each time it's different things to chase, but it gives you a reason.
Yeah.
And it gives you a plan.
It's true. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep. Thanks for listening to the HeroFit podcast with Nick and Dan. We hope you've enjoyed our show. And if you want to know more about this episode or with Greg, listen to past podcasts, just check out HeroFitPodcast.com. Our audience is strong, so we know that we can't ask you to smash the subscribe button. Instead, please gently jab the subscribe button. Also, leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, Google, whatever medium you are listening to us on. If you think someone you know would benefit from this podcast, please share it with a friend. And join us next time. Till then, keep it classy.
This has been another episode of the HeroFit Podcast, making humans great again, one podcast at a time.